Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is 14th Judicial Circuit Judge Jim Fensom. Thanks for taking the time. You and Jan both graciously have spent some time here in Washington County over the last couple of weeks, and I feel like we're the beneficiary. You came last week, and we did a couple of segments with you, and back again today. It was really neat. You got a chance to enjoy a Kiwanis luncheon with us.
I enjoyed that. Surely did. Nice luncheon.
Yeah. And got to see a little bit of the Washington Holmes Technical Center campus. Very small amount, but hopefully we're going to get you a tour of that facility soon, too. In any case, thanks so much for taking the time. As I mentioned in the pre-show, I just want to talk a little bit and let our viewers find out a little bit more about you. Obviously, this is a political cycle. The 14th Judicial Circuit. Let's talk about that first. Which counties in Northwest Florida make up that 14th?
Well, it's Bay, Gulf, Calhoun, Washington, Holmes, Jackson, and it's 6 counties. And it's quite a large area when you go all the way from Indian Pass to Esto and from Lake Seminole all the way over to Phillips Inlet at Panama City Beach. It is a large area.
Yeah, and the thing that always strikes us about that is that there are disparate areas too. The areas on the coast certainly a lot different from those up around the state line. There's agriculture, there's tourism, there's a tremendous variety of people and livelihoods within that area. So, how does that translate to the cases that you see with those different lifestyles coming together?
Well, we will have disputes involving people that are commercial fishermen that have a contract dispute over some issue about their fishing issues. We'll have cases wherein there's a farming issue and a pesticide problem and an overspray from a crop duster. So we have a very large variety of cases that we see. And then even on the criminal side, you see a little bit different type of criminal activity on the coast than you do inland. It's just a little bit different group of people.
Yeah, that coastal region where you have a lot of tourism, it seems to attract some of the grifters and some of the people that prey on those visitors. So I would imagine some of the crime involves some of that stuff as well.
Well, it does, and the spring break is certainly a very controversial issue within the community. You know, my job as a judge is to look at the cases and to handle the cases, and I'm not making the policy on spring break. That's not my job, but it does generate some conversation.
Spring break keeps rearing its head, has for the last 30 years. It seems like every few years it comes back around. Does it need to go away? You know, Daytona Beach successfully did away with what was their really raucous spring break, and it took a few years, but they are doing well from a retail point of view. But the beaches area, Panama City Beach particularly, depends on spring break revenue to a great extent.
That's true. They certainly do.
And along with that comes commensurately all of the problems like Girls Gone Wild and all of that stuff. Let's talk about what's different about a circuit judge compared to a county judge.
County judges handle disputes involving less than $15,000 generally. Circuit judge, more than $15,000. County judges, you're looking at a person that is facing up to 1 year in the local jail, the county jail. And in the state prison system with a circuit judge, you're looking at a felony, which is different from misdemeanor, of course. And the minimum felony maximum penalty is 5 years. And of course, you have up to life, and in very few cases, the death penalty is imposed by circuit judges. That's the big distinction. Also, the circuit judges do the probate, guardianship, and certain other areas.
Wow. I had never had it explained to me that way. So, the guardianship, I know that you have really spent some time on dependency issues, and that is one of the areas in which you got some acclaim, rave reviews, if I may say that, and did well and embraced that and seemed to achieve a lot of what you wanted to in that. Talk a little bit about that dependency part of it.
Well, the dependency involves the families that just are having trouble raising their children. Sometimes it's drug abuse, sometimes it's alcohol abuse, and there are other problems that people have within their families. Unfortunately, too much of it is the drug abuse. And we've had cases where their children are 3 years old and they're walking down the middle of the street at 2 a.m. And we've had cases where the children are walking around the deep end of the swimming pool and the children and the parents are passed out in the motel room. And in those cases, the children must be removed. And if the families can't get their lives, the parents can't get their lives back together, then it may be a permanent removal of the children. And hopefully the parents put their lives back together and the children go back with the parents. But when they don't, we have what we call as a termination of parental rights hearing. The parental rights are absolutely terminated and the children are placed for adoption. And it's a very sad and difficult procedure on the termination of parental rights. The bright side of it is, during the 5 years of doing dependency, I had an opportunity to place over 300 children in safe, loving new homes. And I run into those children and those families. Sometimes when I'm out shopping and doing things around town, I will run into these families and they'll come over and want to talk. And it's very, very heartwarming to see those people and to meet those people and see the families doing well. So that's a bright day in a judge's life, is when you have a good adoption and it goes well. It's very successful. And when I first went into that area, I noticed that many of the cases involving adoptions were pending for over 3 years, and just because of all the difficulties. And we met with all of the agencies involved. There are 4 or 5 agencies involved, and I started having monthly meetings, and everyone was very cooperative. And after several months, we shrunk that 36-month adoption period down to 18 months. And the people that I worked with are very appreciative of each other, and I'm appreciative of them and what we were able to accomplish. And the Supreme Court recognized what we had done and changed some policies statewide that did, help other areas improve their efficiency and their timeline for these young children.
Yeah, definitely heart-wrenching stuff.
It is.
I had the opportunity the fortune, if I may, to serve as a guardian ad litem for a while, and for somebody to stay in it long-term is sort of unusual, although there are some. The burnout factor is pretty great when you start seeing some of these things, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to deal with that regularly for long periods of time. And I wasn't one of them. It just tears your heart out when you see some of these cases, especially when you have a termination of parental rights.
Yeah. Well, quite frankly, when I was in the dependency for the first 2 or 3 months, I had serious questions about, was I going to be able to do this work because of the emotion involved. And then I finally was able to settle down and was able to do the work for 5 years and was very pleased with what was accomplished.
You know, so often the Department of Children and Families is looked at as the bad guy because they are the enforcement branch. They are the investigative branch. They're the ones that come to the door with a badge and say, we're here to investigate a charge. Unfortunately, all charges must be investigated, so if there are petty disputes between neighbors, sometimes frivolous complaints are made, and obviously that's the bad part of it. But at the end of the day, without that agency and without some of that enforcement, we could have a lot more horror stories than we do.
Well, that's absolutely true, and there are horror stories. And from my earlier comments, I certainly didn't mean to indicate that children are always removed. Frequently, there's an investigation and the children are not removed. So that's just in a few cases when the children are removed. The Department of Children and Families, it's a very difficult job to be a child protection investigator, to go into the home, to try to check out the parents and to understand what's really going on. It's a very difficult job, and quite frankly, there are some budget restrictions that the Department of Children and Families had on their caseload, and I admire the people that do the work. It's tough work. It's challenging work.